Some matches from 2022 and 2023 were immortalized as bloody battles that left a mark in the eyes of the spectators and enormous damage on the faces of the fighters. For the end of this year, your MMA Corner TV will cover those matches to fill your time with quality content while we're on a break from the UFC. UFC 273 Gilbert Burns vs. Khamzat Chimaev. The audience from Jacksonville, Florida in 2022 at the UFC 273 event had the honor of seeing Gilbert Burns break the previously invincible appearance of Khamzat Chimaev for the first time. But Chimaev meant business without giving a glimpse of giving up. Gilbert survived a barrage of takedown attempts early in the bout that Khamzat is known for, and then took the fight to him, showing him why he's still at the top of the welterweight division. What is interesting is that Dorino outstruck Chimaev through 3 rounds. The two grapplers enjoyed showering each other with violent blows, Khamzat dropping Burns and Dorino succeeding in the same, opening each other's faces and bathing in their blood like locked-up beasts. They did their best, and as the fight progressed, it became more fiery and interesting. The bloodshed ended after 3 rounds, and Chimaev took the win and passed his first big test in the octagon. Burns can also be said to be the winner for bringing a fight to a character that everyone at the top of the welterweight division avoided. That dude Khamzat is the truth because he got hit with bombs. He got his head spun around backwards. He was on Queer Street right there. It was a war. The first fight he was really ever tested inside the octagon, said John Rogan on Khamzat's performance in this epic clash. UFC Fight Night, Marina Rodriguez vs. Michelle Waterson Gomez II. This year's blood female fight. A fiery start guaranteed that the battle would not reach the final bell, and Waterson initially pressed Rodriguez and enabled a slick double-leg takedown with a dominant position over the Brazilian. Marina found space to get back to her feet by landing Waterson with dangerous knees to the body from the clinch, where she was doing a lot of damage and finding success. Next, it was the Brazilian who applied pressure with her elbows and knees, destroying her opponent's face and letting the blood flow. The referee had to call a break to check on Michelle, whose face was battered as if she had survived a 25-minute war, and not 1 round. Marina carried the recipe of brutalization with knees and elbows into the second round. Rodriguez countered and came straight to mount position, where she quickly ended the fight. Michelle's white shirt was no longer white at the end of the fight, and fans insinuated that she should retire. Colleagues from the UFC commented on the short war on Twitter briefly and clearly. UFC 281 Dustin Poirier vs. Michael Chandler. When you lock Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier in a cage in front of an audience, you can be sure you're in for a gladiatorial match. The first punches thrown had more power than they should have, and it was clear that they wanted to hurt each other, even though they were quite picky in the first round. It seemed as if Michael caught the momentum and Dustin was in trouble. But regardless of Chandler swinging murderous shots, the Diamond showed that he works best under pressure. It was obvious that Chandler wanted to put him away as soon as possible, but his haste got him dropped at the end of the first round. Dustin failed to finish him, but gave him a hell of a beating. He bled Mike's head, but couldn't take the smile off his face. Chandler continued at the same pace and got another takedown, dominating the round on the ground, spilling thick blood all over his opponent. The fight was going to Michael's advantage, even though Dustin did more damage. Poirier went into hunt mode in the third round, trying to annihilate a tired opponent who was not slowing down. Chandler was working great until, during the scramble, his opponent got to his back, where he choked him to get an impressive win. Hey Mike, there's no disrespect, brother. You are a warrior. You have done a lot of great up there. I was scared to fight you, but without fear there's no bravery. So let's rock. Gladiators shared a few inspiring words at the end of the fight, showing it's all love and respect. UFC Fight Night, Kattar vs. Giga Chikadze. The undefeated Giga Chikadze won his last 3 victories by knockout, and the featherweight title shot was smiling at him. But he had one more task before his crowning attempt. Kattar lost to Max Holloway and looked to return to winning ways against a fellow striker, and fans in Nevada were up for a treat. Kattar came with homework done and took down Giga at the start of the fight, where he held him for the entire round. In the second, Chikadze began to rely on his kicks and hand techniques, hitting Calvin cleanly, and Kattar, being a dog, kept moving forward, pairing him in exchanges and keeping him on the back foot. Heavy jabs, elbows, and hooks echoed through Nevada from both sides. The boys showed no signs of slowing down, even though they were visibly tired. And as time went on, Chikadze's face got worse and worse, and Kattar was giving the punishments through 5 rounds with the striking clinic. The blood was everywhere, and the fight was awarded Fight of the Night, and not for those with a weak stomach. Calvin won by decision, and both were transported to the hospital after the war. After 144 significant strikes and a reconstructed face, Giga had to cool down for a year and a half, and after this beating he still hasn't returned to his old glory. UFC 283, Glover Teixeira and Jamahal Hill. As John Jones vacated the light heavyweight title, many champions changed in a short period. After the fight of the year against Jiří Procházka and a loss in the title fight, Glover Teixeira is back for a chance to take the vacant title against the young Jamahal Hill in January 2023. Jamahal smothered many takedown attempts by the old Glover by punishing him with knees to the body to keep the fight standing. In the second round, he managed to hurt him by spamming high kicks and continued to threaten with his dangerous hands, to which Teixeira responded by opening him under the eye. In the third round, Hill had a chance to finish Glover in ground and pound, but Glover survived after taking a lot of damage. The Brazilian's corner had their hands full wiping the blood off their fighter round after round. Hill was visibly better, brutal, and successful with striking, and in the 5th round he had his moment where he started opening up Glover with elbows on the ground. The 43-year-old absorbed 232 significant strikes and missed the last chance for the title, but he had the honor of saying goodbye to his beloved sport in front of his Brazilian crowd. Jamahal, on the other hand, finally reached his moment and realized his dream of becoming a light heavyweight UFC champion in a dense and bloody match. UFC on ESPN, Elves Brenner vs. Guram Kutateladze. One of the biggest slugfests in 2023 was made possible by Guram Kutateladze and Elves Brenner. What a fight, what a twist, and what an upset. And those who are fans of bloody battles, it is an understatement to say that they enjoyed it. Guram started hitting sharp while Brenner relied on his wrestling. And even though he was outstruck in the first round, he had 2 takedowns and 2 minutes of control. He was almost finished in the last 20 seconds of the round, but was saved by the bell. The fire spread in the second round as well, where Kutateladze got a takedown and shook off the hurt Elves with almost every punch, opening his head with elbows from the top position and then calling him to a standing position. Brenner's face was a bloody mess, and his light hair completely took on red hues. Elves was barely holding on. The Georgian Viking's elbows proved to be razor-sharp weapons, and he used them every time his opponent took cover. Brenner was not even from the Georgian. Finally, Brenner achieves an incredible turnaround thanks to his warrior's heart, takes out Guram with a precise left hand, and takes the unexpected victory. Not only the fans, but even the fighters were delighted. UFC Fight Night, Vettori vs. Cannonier. The middleweight fireworks in the leading fight of the evening did not disappoint at all, and Jared Cannonier and Marvin Vettori stood bravely in the arena until the last moment. Just 30 seconds in, and the Italian managed to wobble Jared with his left and wasn't going to knock him out. After completely dominating, Jared came out clean, and Marvin's face, to say the least, was completely destroyed. The clash won the Fight of the Night award thanks to the incredible durability of Marvin Vettori and the record volume of power punches by Jared Cannonier, whose best performance to date was this. UFC 290, Dan Hooker vs. Jaylen Turner. Why is it that every time there's a bloody and violent fight, Dan Hooker has his part? On July 8, 2023, his opponent at UFC 290 was Jaylen Turner, who started the 3-round match showing sharp striking. Strong and concrete kicks and punches decorated the attractive first round, but one could sense that this was just warming it up. The last 20 seconds were particularly violent, and the guys brought nasty striking to the second round, going back and forth and giving a hell of a fight. A notable moment happened halfway through the second round when Turner threw a high kick that Dan received with his head, without any indication that it threatened him vitally. Jaylen began a siege of elbows and punches, but he only managed to open Hooker's head, who did not want to fall but was bleeding badly. Turner was thorough and efficient with the punches, and the fireworks ensued again in the final minute of the second round as both men hurt each other with an advantage for Hangman, who ended the round on his opponent. The same way as the second ended, the third started, launching shots from both sides. Busted up, Hooker was wiping his own blood from his eyes, which didn't stop him from chasing Turner around the octagon. The rest of the third round was absolute madness, and it's a shame there weren't more rounds. Dan Hooker entered with a new image and left the match completely bloody, but with a split decision victory in a bloody fight that was worth watching more than once. Violent slugfests are one of the main reasons we love this sport, and the last 2 years have not been disappointing in that regard. Be sure that we will cover future bloodbaths and interesting matches, so see you in the next video on MMA Corner TV.